Well, creativity is in the nonlinearities, right? But productivity is in the implementation of linearities. I mean, that's what is absolutely clear. This is why I think we were talking earlier about why a formal, rigorous training in something where other people are looking at you and telling you, no, not good enough, go back and do it again. There's real value to that, because otherwise it's just ideas. It's just vapors.
You know, the thing that Matt mentioned is the study that they're working on is, as opposed to, I think most of the psychedelic studies they've done is on how to treat different conditions. And one of the things they're working on now is to try to do a study where for creatives, for people that don't have a condition they're trying to treat, but instead see how psychedelics can help you create. So like,
goodness, if you take creatives and you give them more psychedelics, they're not going to be able to get out of their room.
I don't know. Well, but this is maybe you can speak to that. Psychedelics or not, or dreams or tools in general, how to be better creatives. That's an interesting, I don't often see studies of this nature of like how to take high performers in the mental creative space and get them to perform even better. So it's not average people. It's like masters of their craft, like taking, his examples was taking an Elon Musk, which is in the engineering space, and maybe musicians and all that kind of stuff, and studying that. That's weird. Usually the scientific exploration there has been done by the musicians themselves, has been documented.
Like jazz is like all nonlinearities,
yeah,
right? But but the people still have to know how to play their instruments.
Right.
There's some early skill building that's critical. I mean, when you mention someone like Elon, he's already a virtuoso, right? And in so many different domains. I've never met him, but it's clear, right? It's not just that he's ambitious and bold and brave and all that. It's all that, and there's clearly a different way of looking at the same problems that everyone else is looking at. And people are probably banging their head against the refrigerator thinking like, think differently, it doesn't work that way. There's a certain anxiety I'm not talking about for Elon, but I have no idea. But I think for somebody who's very structured, very regimented, very linear, the anxiety comes from letting go of those linearities. And for the person that's very creative, the anxiety comes from trying to impose linearities, right? The really creative artist or musician, they seem nuts. They seem like they can't get their life together because they can't.
Mm-hmm.
And we look at people who are kind of pseudo Asperger's or some forms of autism, and they are so hyperlinear, but you take away those linearities and they freak out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the essence of some of those syndromes. So I think that the ability to toggle back and forth between those states is what's remarkable. I mean, because we're here and we're having this discussion. I mean, Steve Jobs is a good example. He probably the best example of somebody who actually talked about his own process, about the merging of art and science, art and engineering, humanities and science. Very few people can do that.
Well,
you seem to have a capacity to do that. Like you know poetry, and you are AI guy. Like there's nothing linear about poetry as far as I can tell.